Right. So just a little bit of a technical difficulty. We're good. We're back. Um, so first and foremost, please do check in, log in with us, call us in. Our number is 718-841-9980. That's in the studio. If you have any questions, do give us a call back and let us know, what's happening in your neck of the woods. So we were at the point where we were telling Dr. Brand that she needs to stand up and show like
You
because
see what happened when you invest in me?
she's a beautiful black woman. Um Juju. So let's see. Let's come on, Juju.
Oh,
Stand up, woman.
I am dressed down like
Stand up.
this. Lord, you won't be able. Okay.
Wait,
All right.
wait. Are you one of those people like you come to the office, like you
No, no,
really
no,
not
no, no.
wearing
That's me
everything under the
underneath.
bottom
No,
properly, appropriately, but your top is good,
no,
and
no,
then
no.
you have on the jacket at the top? You're one of those persons?
No, I am not one of those. I have a full attire on.
There you go.
Full
So I used to
attire
talk about
on.
you dressed on. You're like he's all like nervous. Like you used to be a bodybuilder. Stop it. Right? Did you tell the audience that how you were a
Can you
model and a
stop? Can you
bodybuilder?
stop? Leave me alone. Why you
Yeah,
tell
I
me
know you don't like to
to
tell
stop?
anybody that, but yes,
Yes, I don't
yes,
like
my Juju was a model and a bodybuilder. Like
stop it.
she could have knocked
Stop
you out with a
it.
dumbbell,
Stop.
So a lot of things. So today's show, if you guys, everybody who's tuning in, hopefully it's going to be very interesting. We have Dr. Bridget Bryant, Dr. Bridget Williams on. Hopefully there's no difficulty, and Kevin Green. Both of them are people who have indulged in Dr. Bryant's favorite topic, cannabis. She just loves the top. Dr. Bryant, what's higher ranking on your favorite topic, politics or Dr. Bryant or cannabis? Which one is the highest one? So I just want to know. It's our favorite topic. Of
See,
this is today, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the quietest that you have ever seen Dr. Bryant. I mean, she's normally quiet, but today's going to be worse, right? Today's going to be worse in terms of her level of quietness because she has no interest in cannabis, none at all. Even though it's a 1.7 billion-dollar industry, she's just they could keep the 1.7 billion. Is that correct, Dr. Bryant?
you see, that is incorrect all the way.
Oh,
All the way.
yeah, that's all the way correct, is what you meant to say. What? Oh, you're muted, by the way. All right. So that's one. So Dr. Bridget, and there's so many things going on, and you're also gonna have one of the authors. And if you have gotten the book, if you hadn't gotten the book, I'm gonna tell you up front, you need to order it. It's called Courage in Cannabis, right? And getting it out there. I have my copy in the studio for you to refer to, and for me to refer to and tell you about it. It's a compilation of stories about how people have left their normal lives and come to the cannabis world. But there are a lot of things happening in the news, Dr. Bryant. Some of them your favorite, some of them not your not so favorite. I think that's how I'm gonna start every topic today. I'm gonna let people know this is her favorite topic, and she loves to talk about it. Summarizing, how's that going in New York? Are you doing that?
I am doing,
By
yeah.
the way, what is summarizing?
Summarizing is a combination of academics and also fun. So I'm not really doing summarizing, I'm doing dream. So it falls under that window where children can actually build their academic skills and go from there. And also have fun. Learn to do something fun, get outside of the whole academic realm, and
Yeah,
similar to summer camp, but in
right.
school.
Okay, okay. But so, what are the hours?
Well, I would say 8 to maybe 6. Yeah,
Eight to
8 to 6.
six.
Yes.
Okay, and who's allowed to participate?
Well, parents had to apply,
They
and
have to
a
apply
lot
to
of parents,
summarizing.
right? You had to apply for summarizing in order to get in. And if you did not apply, no,
All right. I think I want to get my 7-year-old in and the one around the corner.
I think it's too late for that.
Uh, it's always too late, but
But you got the hookup, right?
no, I ain't got no hookup. What the hell is a hookup? I don't know what that is. putting that. What kind of conversation you having on the air? But I have a hookup. All of a sudden, I hear like 60 people calling you, Mr. Daly. You got the hookup, right? John, welcome.
It took you damn long enough to get in.
Well, oh wow. Executive producer Andre said, read your damn email. That's all I got to say. He said, read your damn email. What's going on, man? How's your
What
Thursday?
email? Email.
I don't
Send
know.
me the, will you, what's up?
I'm not getting involved. I'm not getting involved between what Andre's saying to you, to y'all, have each other's phone number. Don't get me involved with that. I don't know what he's talking about. So let's start with the, so tell us, John, how's your Thursday going?
My Thursday's going well.
All right.
I can send my condolences to the Trump family for the
What
passing of the, Trump's first wife, Ivana passed away. Yeah.
Ivana. What? Okay, that's I guess I was actually at the doctor today. That happened today.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, I was at the doctor. I was at the doctor all day, so I wasn't. Huh?
Send my condolences to their family.
Yeah, I honestly, today. I didn't hear any news at all. Nothing. I was at the doctor's. Today's my normal chemo visits. I didn't hear. So she passed this morning.
Yeah, she passed this morning. They found her at the bottom of the stairs.
Oh wow.
Wow, that's amazingly terrible. Who found her?
I don't know who found her, but they got an emergency phone call.
What did he say? Hopefully it didn't say
Yeah,
something.
he said something very nice. Very, it was very nice.
That's what he said.
No,
Andre
that's not what he said.
Andre said he said sad, very sad, tremendously sad.
It is sad, irrespective of what you may think of the guy.
Yeah, you never want to. I was having this conversation, and I've been having it recently. I said I was actually having this conversation with Auntie Beb yesterday, and we were talking about death, right?
Right.
And I said one of the conversation is whether the person dies at 0 or 120, 130. The loss is still felt.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Definitely.
And I tell people all the time, when somebody dies for you, it's important. Whether the person was a killer or the goodest person, for lack of a better word, because it's not a really right. It's not a word. I'm just trying to show extremes, right? Person in the world, either way, right? I didn't say hello to our villagers. Hello, villagers. How you guys doing out there? So that's sad news. Hi Monet. Hi Carlene. Hey
Big Mo. Hello to Big Mo.
Just welcome everyone to the village. So the first topic we're going to talk about is like there's another wave of COVID hits, right? And then all these different variants that are coming out. I think what they have to B5 or BA5 or something like that. And then you also talk Novavax has just gotten the approval to release now a fourth vaccine it's a double dose vaccine. Hey Warren, what's going on? Andre, just when you get a chance, just pull up some of these. So sometimes I'm not looking at the screen to say hello as
You know what?
From the machine.
Novavax was something that if it was out a while ago, I would have went with that.
Why?
Because reaching out to some of my science and chemistry friends, that was a clearer choice. One that didn't use too many of the new technology and use some of the older technology and older methods of doing things. So I was okay with that.
I got you. All right. Usually a nice answer. I like that.
But it's been around for a while. It's just the United States didn't approve it for us. But it was used many other places.
Yeah, and there's another one that Cuba had too that is not approved here in the United States as well. What is that? That's a lot. Joanne, take that away.
You said I'm taking that away?
No, hola a todos. Mi nombre es Diana López of España, pero actualmente vivo en Francia.
Asking for your money?
Sufro de una enfermedad que me condenó a morir, cáncer de garganta. Tengo 650,000 libras en mi cuenta bancaria de Sociedad General y me gustaría traspasarlo a quien honesto. Oh, I love these ones, right? So this is apparently somebody's email is hacked. I don't know whose it is, but it could be one of ours. So
Ask
no,
someone-
put it back up. I'm gonna put it back. Put it back up. Put it back up. There's one of ours. He has to be one of ours because it's on our page. So we have to figure out which one of ours it is. Yeah, our email, our Facebook. So the person says that, hello all, my name is Diana Lopez. I'm from Spain, but I actually live in France. I suffer from an infirmity that they condemn me to die, throat cancer. I have 650,000 euros in my bank account in Society General. I don't know what that is. I guess that's the name of a bank. And I would like to give it to someone honest, but and trust. I am the owner of a business, an importation business and accessories for automobiles.
And that's what you should stay away from. There you go.
So I guess that's a widow. I don't know that word, but I'm a widow with for 10 years. It's been 10 years since I'm a widow with no children. I went to all of the medical specialists without any solution for my if you want to be if you want to give it to you, right? And then I guess you go on Facebook to see the rest. So I get those. Hey, John, a couple years ago, I got one of those from Kevin Parker.
Really?
Yeah, that said he was stuck in England. So I called him, and this is one of our state senators, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know who I'm talking about. And he was stuck in England for a while and needed money to come home. So I called him. He's like, oh, what? And then one of my friends actually sent him the money.
Really?
Yeah, one friend sent him the money. Yeah. No, it wasn't Kevin. It was somebody hacked into his account, his email account, and sent it out. So John Samson. Wow, somebody's happy to see you, John. Jack Glasser.
So Jack, I said hello, man. Attorney extraordinaire.
All right. So he's like, John, wow. Monet, we're the other country successful with the medication they use for COVID. I don't know, Monet, if they were, but I know that I had a couple family members who said, hey, I want to take this. That was from Cuba. I can't wait to do it. But then what I find also, a lot of people, I don't have a physical data in front of me. I'm just talking from what some people have told me. When people don't want to take the vaccine, they say, I would take it if. And that happens a lot. So to be honest with you, I don't know if it's successful in other countries or not, but I do know that people say, I would do this if. And when it comes, they won't take it. So I can't. I don't have an answer. I
wish it was available a while ago. Like I mentioned, I wish.
Well, I understand that, giving you more choices, so you have something to choose from. I get, right? Because that's a different conversation.
You know what? But the bottom line is, get vaccinated, and in the interim, just practice. Great hygiene, sanitize, wear your mask in public places,
social distancing. That's the basis.
So
let's start with the basis.
That people are actually, because I don't notice, one of my girlfriends actually became paranoid last week when CDC said, hey, wear your mask inside and outside. She's like, oh no, it's back again. Do you think that people are just fatigued, tired of this whole COVID thing? 1 minute we're fine, the next minute we're not. So there tends to be people are ignoring the whole fact that, hey, COVID is around.
I would agree with that. I totally agree with that.
So the precautionary measures that we would have taken last year or the year before when it first started is not the same approach that people are taking now.
But people are not taking the precautionary measures. You
No.
still got people, crowds, and events, and people are just not adhering to the precautionary.
They want to
Uh,
live their life.
There's nothing wrong with live your life, but then you get COVID, and then your wife gets COVID affects people differently, and I think the bottom line is if we can just use those precautionary measures, but at the same time just practice good health.
I get that I got that juju that people want to live their lives. I get it, right?
Stop calling me that.
Right, but there's a reality, right? There's also the secondary.
You mean
part of
little
reality.
juju?
Yeah, little
Listen,
juju.
I am not a little juju. That nickname is not for you all. That is when I was growing
Listen,
up.
anything on the air, everything in the air is now public, so I don't know what to tell you.
It is not for you all.
Right, but but what I'm saying is that even though, like Warren just stated, right, 100% people are tired. 100% agree with that concept, right? People are tired. People want to move on with their lives. They want to go back to normalcy, right? You can't. So normalcy is out of the question, at least until the effects of COVID is just about gone, right? Like it becomes like the common cold, or becomes like the flu, or it becomes like something that is in passing, right? Remember, even at times back in the late 80s, early 90s, when GRID, remember that, John? You remember GRID?
Yep.
Yeah, when
I don't
GRID,
remember GRID. What is that?
AIDS. That's what they called AIDS first when they didn't know what it was. They called it GRID. All right. So when GRID came out, everybody was scared, right? Everybody was scared. And then you were told that it was a homosexual disease. And then that kind of eased people's sense of safety, right? And then it blossomed, right? Because then it's not a homosexual disease, it's a person disease, right? And so you have to change how you look at it. And then because Magic Johnson now got it, so he was the highest profile person that wasn't gay, right? To say that he had gay, not that he was the only person, but he was the highest profile person in 91, right? So after that, he talked about he had AIDS. Now all of a sudden people, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to take all this precautionary measures. Now the ability to transmit AIDS is less, because if you have the right medication, right, and you stick to your medication, your ability to transfer it through sexual contact is extremely low. Blood transfusion is even lower, right? But you still, people who use needle can pass it along, right?
Right.
At a higher rate. But,
Right.
but people are not as worried about AIDS anymore, or syphilis, or those things. So until you get to that point, the outlook has to be different, I think. So I mean, one of the questions that we have here for discussion is, do you think that we're going to go to a pseudo lockdown? And the answer to that is no. The government.
No, we're not going to lockdown again. Nope.
Right. Economically, it doesn't make sense. And like you said, people are 100% crazy, but they are willing to take necessary precautions, though, increased precautions. But there's still people out there who will not go outside without their mask.
Yeah.
Right. The next question is, what do you do if you and your loved ones are no longer on the same page? It comes close to stick to COVID protocols. What does that mean?
Because you have some family members who will wear masks, some who won't, some who don't care no more. It's a nice conversation to have, but it's the haves and the have not. You're gonna have that divide.
That's true. I mean, I think that
you're gonna have a divide. You have a divide in many different things. So I mean,
just have to adjust.
I think that
just get vaccinated those who want to. If not, practice the precautionary measures.
Well, I don't think my personal thing is, I don't think you should be able to live in both worlds. Right.
Well, I'll tell you this. Some people actually became a little too paranoid over that, where till this day, I know someone who's still spraying people down when they walk through their doors. They won't allow people to do certain things.
Well, I will never be visiting that person.
So it's.
I'm like, first of all, if I get to that person, as a person. First of all, when I go to Jamaica, when you walk into the store, they want you to put the hand stand. I'm like, yo, go get vaccinated. Leave me alone. I'm wearing my mask. Leave me alone. Don't spray me now. Oh, you can't come in here? Okay, no problem, sir. See you later. I spend my money someplace else. I went to Mother's to tell me I need to go get a mask. I'm like, you know what? Okay, I could get chicken someplace else. I'm going.
Right.
I'm not going to support your business. So, but you can't have. I'm not coming to your house and you spray me down. I come to your house, you tell me to wear a mask. I'm like, no problem. I'll wear a mask. That's good. I'm good with that. But I'm not coming to your house and you spray me down. I wash my hands is one thing. Spray me down is another. I don't know. What do you think, John?
Spray your ass down.
I'm talking about you, John, not me. You. Spray you down.
Spray me down.
Before I forget, I don't want to miss out. Joanne, you forgot your chicken. Just want to say, everyone, the best jerk chicken in town is at the King of Jerks, right?
Very nice.
Glenwood and Utica. Little Juju went over there. She had some.
Bob said calling me that.
She took some home. How was it, Little Juju? How was it? How was the chicken? How was the
chicken
food?
was very good. It was very, very good. I had the chicken.
Yo, Roderick, you better stop calling her that because Big Juju may knock you out.
You know what I'm saying? Marie Jo ain't knocking me out. She applaud the fact that I call it Little Juju. Right? Right? Hopefully I'm also pronouncing it right, John. So tell us about King of Jerk. How was it?
It actually was very good. I shared some with my mom and my sister, and they like it. I do like the pork. It's not bad. The pork is not bad, but the chicken is on point. Definitely go out and support him. Very nice gentleman. And it is great jerk chicken.
All right, right at Kevin is on.
Huh? And what?
Right. I was just trying to talk about it. Right. So and they have corn, and right next to them they have a few other things that are involved with that. So just go out and support the King of Jerks. That's your job, and I'm like, I can't focus on that. All right, Andre's giving me work to do in the studio that he's supposed to do. Hey, Calvin, what's going on? That's up. You know what I'm waiting for, John, from you from about a year now? Rodney's phone number, because I want to talk to Cher Battle, his sister, my junior high school friend, tall Cher Battle. The other part of this, going back to that. Oh, also, Andre, bring that commercial up for me for SPU. When you get a chance, let me know when you're ready to run it. All right. No, that's right. That's right. So how does long-term pandemic is straining many relationships? I don't know that it's straining any relationship. I think it's just people are not going to get divorced because of COVID.
Maybe there might be a.
Well, let's do, like you're talking about the extreme.
Yeah. I think the people who go extreme were exposed to something, worked in the medical field and actually witnessed lots of death. So it could have been something to that extent. Why you putting it up your finger?
So, yes.
To the commercial?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thanks for pointing that out, though. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to let you know that our Village Radio Talk Show is sponsored by Single Parent University. We have open enrolling admissions, course curriculum, personal development for our single parents, mindful parenting, support seminars, financial management, nutrition, and wellness. Program benefits, you get free session for childcare, right? Or that's actually supposed to be backwards. So childcare for every session, transportation, so you get a Metro card, social support hub, resume, cover letter writing, career exploration, and legal assistance. Call 646-779-6767 and text XPU at 71441. So this is, please do come out and support. We need you to support those who support us. So even if you have to call and ask a question, step in, somebody who's a single parent who is struggling, especially with last week we talked about teenage mothers and single parent. This is an opportunity to help them. Sometimes we don't want to help ourselves, and so we're sometimes forced to be placed in a position where others can help us. So just give it out to Single Parent University. So, right? How much time we got? All right. So, Kev, you need to put on your camera. So once I see your camera up, I'll pull you both up on screen. All right, perfect. A little up, a little more, up a little more. Perfect. Right there is good. All right. So this is a conversation that. Oh, wait, let me text my boy right now, Doc, before you even say a word. Where my phone at? Where my phone at? Let me text my boy right now because he was looking forward to this conversation. Hold on. Hopefully he's able to get on. I'm gonna text him right now. All right. Hold on. Let me text him. Oh wait.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Shelby, join us right now. All right, join us right now.
We're excited to have you and start.
Shelby, join us right now. Dr. Bridget is waiting to hear what you got to say about the cannabis industry. Kevin is right here, right? So I'm telling you right now, stop watching my son's baseball game and get on the call. I'm just telling you up front. All right, go ahead, Joe. Just had to make sure you send that.
Really?
Yeah. By the way, just letting you know, Dr. Williams, I told I read through the book, right? So all of the authors were saying, and I told him right away, go get the book. You got the book and read it off.
Very good, thank you.
All right. So even before you got on the show, I told him get the book. All right?
Very good.
So Doc Brian, go ahead. I interrupted.
I said I'm excited to have this conversation, especially with our Rudy, who is so excited about this topic. So
John too.
Please introduce yourself. Let's start with Dr. Williams. Introduce yourself to our listeners. We want to find out more about you. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Thank you. So my name is Dr. Bridget Cole Williams. I am a family doctor as well as a cannabinoid specialist. And I am the visionary author for Courage in Cannabis, which is a book about 18 people that share how cannabis has changed their life. So along with having the book, I do cannabis education and have a CBD line, as well as do talks across the country to enlighten people about cannabis and CBD and how it can help you.
Thank you. So I know that, oh my gosh, great topic. That's one thing Janice just put up. Can you tell us? Oh, there you go. All right. So I won't be selfish. Mr. Kevin, introduce yourself, please.
No, I appreciate it. Hey, everyone. My name is Kevin Green. I am the vice president and a co-owner of the Cleveland School of Cannabis, which is our workforce development education company going on 5 years now. That's actually how I met Dr. Bridget, recruiting her to be a part of our staff and curriculum development team and many other partnerships throughout the way, as well as myself in my career. Last 10 years, I've run my marketing, advertising, and staff development firm, which does a lot of work around obviously advertising and marketing, but also in the diversity, equity, inclusion space within the community, and also with clients and in turn and work culture. So excited to be here. Excited to definitely have this conversation.
All right. Well, I'm fascinated about the fact that Cleveland has a school for cannabis. So that's very interesting. I don't know if New York has a school for cannabis, but it's great to find out more about it. Now, you mentioned something in regards to CBD and cannabis. What is the difference?
Absolutely. So CBD is one of the active compounds that are in cannabis as well as in hemp. And so it really is the workhorse that I consider of cannabis and hemp as far as helping with medical conditions. It is, the other name is cannabidiol. And so what you'll end up seeing, at gas stations, at wellness centers, at stores, all across the US are CBD products that come from hemp. And it can be very helpful for pain, anxiety, numerous conditions, neuropathy, helping you with your sleep as well. And that's opposed to what THC is, which is what more people are familiar with, which is the compound or active component of cannabis that causes that more euphoric effect. So that is a little bit more concentrated in marijuana or cannabis, where CBD is a little bit more concentrated in hemp, but they're both in each of those plants, as well as 100 other cannabinoids that make cannabis and hemp such a medicinal plant that we use.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So please tell us about your
Thanks, Tom.
practice and how it's incorporated with the medical, having cannabis and the medical field.
Mhm.
Please tell our listeners more about that. That's interesting.
Yeah, so it doesn't always go hand in hand. Though I still do family medicine at one of my clinics, you'll find that across the country, a lot of physicians are not allowed to participate in the cannabis space as well as being involved in a large health system. So I spent almost 20 years at the Cleveland Clinic doing family medicine and occupational medicine. And then when I decided to become more in the cannabis space, I worked for a smaller clinic as well as the medical director for a clinic in Cleveland, while I decided to open my own cannabis practice, which is called Green Harvest Health. And so Green Harvest Health is an integrative clinic where we do advise and consult on cannabis and CBD for patients, as well as providing life coaching and other integrative modalities to really help people reclaim their wellness.
What-
So,
Mhm.
Kevin,
Yeah.
all right. Which part of Jamaica? Where you come from? Where you come from?
So Guys Hill is where I was born.
What that there? What parish?
Outside of Kingston, up in the country.
So you're from St. Andrew.
Parish of Kingston, but outside of the city.
All right. I'm a country boy from St. Elizabeth.
Okay, St. Elizabeth. Okay.
Yeah, we're from the St. Bess. We call St. Bess.
Mm-hmm.
Where we grow the weed. We grow the weed and sell it to all the guys in Kingston.
Lord have mercy.
So 1992 was the first time you hit cold air, landing off the plane in JFK. How did you end up in Ohio? How did you end up in Ohio?
So I met the founder, actually. I met him on a plane going to Dominican
Founder of what?
Republic. Yeah, going to Dominican Republic, and we met due to the fact that I was talking to my business partner and also our current president, Tyrone Russell. We were having a conversation about business, and then he was connected with some of the people that we were connected with down in the Dominican Republic where we do some business, and we started having a conversation. He told me there's this crazy thing that he just inked all the paperwork to start a cannabis school, and this is what he's been working on. And he kind of really laid out kind of the workforce problems, and even in California, we thought everything was going great. The fact that people are having problems finding quality, educated, workers to work in the industry. So he saw that there was going to be a huge need for that, not only in the West Coast, but truthfully, as cannabis was coming to the East Coast. Now, this is 2016. So if we could just think about where we were in a cannabis situation, legalization, medical or recreational, or just even a sense of at that point, CBD, which really became fully legal with the Farm Bill of 2018. We were in a different space. So that's really what got me to Ohio. I never really looked at, let me be honest, I never looked at Ohio but LeBron. At the end of the day, and I definitely didn't think I need to go to Ohio for any other reason.
That makes sense.
For that, I grew up, as most Jamaicans do, we go to Brooklyn, and then I was in New Jersey. So, I'm outside of Philadelphia now. I thought that's pretty much as far as I'm going to go. Now, we're in Cleveland, Ohio, and the Cleveland School of Cannabis is doing things that has never been done in that area, and definitely hasn't been done really truthfully, in most places in the world.
My first major question, and it's a political question,
Yeah.
right? And this is for both of you. You're in a Republican state, right?
Yep.
New York State is a Democratic state.
Yep.
Yet still, politically, you've gone further in a state where it's more Republican than New York State, which is very Democratic. You think that New York, right, would be more open to cannabis businesses and cannabis enterprises than a state like Ohio. Can you tell us a little bit from both of your sides, Doctor? Let's start with you, Dr. Williams. Let's start with that, and then we get to Vice President Green.
Well, I have to say that there has been significant grassroots effort in the state of Ohio to bring about the program that has developed. And we're also just a lot of farm country. People been growing and hiding plants, for a very long time in this area. And there's a segment of the community that was very interested in bringing about legalization. But at the end of the day, cannabis is a business and it is a profitable business. And the state of Ohio saw that potential of how not only were these activists knocking down their doors to create this program, but they also saw the possibilities what the money could bring to the state. And so when they actually started bringing this information to the public and allowing them to vote on it as well, we were able to start a medical program that is probably one of the most conservative medical cannabis programs in the country. But as time has gone on, we've been able to build something that has been beneficial for the patients.
Kevin, Vice
Yes.
President.
So, everything she just said, cannabis is bipartisan, whether people want to admit it or not. That's pretty much what it comes down to, which, obviously that's why everybody should pick up the book Courage in Cannabis and, read and listen to some stories of individuals that have been a part of the advocacy and the wave of, the realization of what cannabis brings. Now, specifically talking, Dr. Bridget talked about the grassroots efforts and talked about the economic situation. For me being a strategist, and Dr. Bridget knows this about me, the way that I've looked at it is all those things are correct. Secondly, we had a governor in Ohio that was going out and wasn't going to continue Kasich. I'm pretty sure that was his name, right, Bridget?
Yes.
Governor Kasich, right? And Governor Kasich, was a pretty moderate Republican overall, right? In his leadership overall, pretty level-headed in the sense of what we might think might be extreme. Now, there's extreme on all sides, but just in the sense of what mainstream would say extreme is in the sense of Kasich. He was going out. And it was a perfect type of situation to do something that was bipartisan, technically, really in the polls and what it looked like number-wise, regardless of what we've seen on TV. So it was a perfect storm where he can really go out and throw his hands up, because he didn't have to govern it, right? So he was able to go ahead and put it through, kind of really get a little bit of a pat on the back. If we know and what we've seen from Kasich, especially over the last 4 years, that Kasich was a lot on these Democratic news networks as well. So again, as a strategist, that's the way I look at things, and I understand. I look at it at a different level and say what drives people to make the decisions that they make and what might have been the window. So everything Dr. Bridget said was true. Also, it was a perfect storm and a perfect window for the person to sign the bill because the advocates pushed for it. It was a perfect time to sign the bill and never have to govern the bill with that situation. So Ohio was able to move forward. And as just to say it again, the one thing that is going to be always bipartisan is green and money, at the end of the day. And Ohio is looking for opportunities to close budgets at the end of the day. And cannabis generates a lot of tax revenue and economic stability.
That is true. Now, I heard how you actually were able to get into the business. Dr. Williams, tell us what got you interested in this?
Yes. So I really started my career, like I said, at the Cleveland Clinic, a psych major from University of Michigan initially. So I really got into even medicine with really hopes of understanding patients better. My father had colon cancer when I was young. And so I spent a lot of times in hospitals on the other side and really had this determination to treat patients with dignity and to understand them better. And so not that long after being at the Cleveland Clinic, I was frustrated. My patients were frustrated. They wanted more personalized medicine. They wanted more time and they wanted less pills, to be honest. I was basically on a factory line. For every diagnosis, there was a pill. If you don't like the pill, we'll add one more. If you got side effects, I'm going to put one more pill on you. And they were frustrated. I was frustrated. And I started seeing patients to actually get them off of medications. One of those patients started asking me about cannabis as an alternative. And this is, 12, 15 years ago. I thought she was nuts, to be honest. But I always, respected my patients and wanted to share medical information with them. So, I looked up cannabis thinking there'd be nothing there and was shocked to find the medicinal possibilities and how it really could potentially help her. and I had a lot of trust in her as well. So she started making edibles and smoking, and I started figuring out a timeline and dosing, and I saw her life change. And so from there, I knew that I wanted to know more about this. Of course, I had to wait until it became legal in Ohio to really get deeper into it, but that's where it really started for me.
With the edible cannabis. Oh shucks.
Um, Kevin, Mr. Vice President Green, what is it like to you feel like you created this school that wants to educate people on educate people on cannabis, right? You create this school in Ohio, and you currently sit on the board. Tell us a little bit about the creation of that school.
You know, the only reason why I'm in it, the only reason why I'm technically in cannabis is because I was provided education, right? So, I get this conversation, put upon me, right, in a very random situation, and I learned a lot about the opportunities in cannabis. I've interacted with cannabis since a young teenager, 13, and I've always thought, hey, I thought this was a lot better than alcohol. So as an adult, I barely drink alcohol. If I have one drink a month, that's like my tops, right? So, I've made a conscious decision as a young adult in my early 20s at 22 that alcohol wasn't going to be for me, and I didn't think that it was beneficial. But it was promoted, was accepted. There's no place in me, and even and I always tell people, think about everywhere you bring your kids, you can find alcohol almost. So, you know what I mean? And alcohol is completely promoted. I understand some of the decisions I made on alcohol. So education is what I got. And I just got a little bit of it and opened this opportunity for me. What I've known about cannabis is that all the things that I thought I knew about cannabis, from my just personal use, I really had no idea. I was indoctrinated and educated by the propaganda, and obviously that was heightened by the war on drugs and systematic racism in the United States and truthfully globally at the end of the day. Because we still look at how many countries, cannabis is completely illegal, where people can, people are getting death penalties in certain countries for that. So, with that situation, being able to provide this education is crucial. It provides people a foundation that they can go ahead and really put themselves in position to win at the end of the day, right? Education is crucial in all areas. But really in the cannabis industry, it's so important because right now we're in a really weird situation. Is the fact that cannabis is legal, but it's not legal at the same time because we're going state by state and every state has different rules. So what that means is we're basically in a situation where cannabis is legal and they're continuing to go ahead and allow it to move forward. And with it being federally illegal, that means a lot of the major players that normally tell us what industries are going to be, control the industries completely from the start. It gives every single regular person, and when I say a regular person, a person that doesn't have access to the capital, influence, or the power to basically go ahead and move things in the background and cut other individuals out and control the marketplace. We really get an opportunity to control it and dictate it, but also we get an opportunity to position ourselves. So to create a company and grow a company and do the things that we're doing through on our focus and attainment of national accreditation, our scholarships, our grants, everything that we've done ourselves to really put people in position. Over 750 students that have graduated, 60% of them working in the cannabis industry, plus people owning businesses, starting businesses, people helping their families, people helping themselves. It's just a beautiful thing, to say, pretty straightforward. And we're really only getting started with this whole situation because we're still all learning really the power of cannabis.
That is excellent. You talk about, I have a lot of misconceptions, right? So for one thing, a lot of people question me and they go, "You're Jamaican, you never smoked marijuana?" No, never in my life.
Believe it. I don't believe it. Don't
Yeah,
believe it.
I know. You probably smoke more than I have. But I went to Florida the other day. We had a domino match in Florida in January, and I'm an avid domino player. I'm at the bottom of the professional list, right? Real deep bottom, like this, the last one, and then there's me, right? So I travel and we play all around the world and I went to Florida, and then I got to Port St. Lucie. in Florida, another Republican state, right? And there's a cannabis store. And so I like what you're saying, Vice President Green, and I want to bring back to you now, Dr. Williams, which is that the education component. And as I read through the different stories about the book, and I brought up my Jamaican history, not smoking marijuana, because I want to establish that I had my own negative perspective of what marijuana is, what it was about. And then I started reading this book, right? And I took this book up, and to be very honest, I did not complete it yet, but I did. I read well enough into it to know what they're talking about, right? And I found that as I began to read, I began to become more educated, from the person who's from Jamaica going to Ohio, to the lady that, couldn't walk and couldn't, she had all these ailments and she was very sick, to, I believe her name is Khadijah Adams.
No, I think Candy Flores.
No, not her. I know that's the one with the many ailments, but I'm talking about the one of you authors in there as well.
Khadijah.
Khadijah, right. And so talking about her story and the other stories, right? So bringing it back to both education, and I made some notes. And one of the notes I wrote here was talking about the effect of marijuana, how it works. This is what you wrote, Dr. Williams. Does it work? And that comes from education that Kevin just talked about, in terms of education and research. Putting that together, bringing it back to the medical field, you guys formed organization Green Harvest Health was one thing that stemmed out of the marijuana cannabis industry. And I want you to correct me, both of you. I want you both correct me and correct all of us, right? I keep saying marijuana because that's what I'm used to. Is there a difference between, before you even answer the question about the branching into Green Harvest Health, is there a difference itself between marijuana and cannabis? Should we call it marijuana? Should we call it cannabis?
So definitely, marijuana is a term that we try our best not to use, because it's a term that's really rooted in racism. That it really refers back to Maria and Juan, which was a word that Enslinger, who was really created Reefer Madness and was a part of the government that really was creating discrimination against Black and brown people in the 30s and 40s, and was using this term to scare people away from the Mexican Americans that were coming into the US and against Black people that were in the US, and telling them to be afraid of Maria and Juan. Okay. So it's not a word that we tend to use. Cannabis is the more scientific term for the plant. And as far as is it different? No, you're speaking of the same thing. Okay. The overlying term is definitely cannabis. We often break up cannabis into hemp, and then cannabis sativa, which is what you refer to as marijuana, that has a higher THC count. But if you can avoid and slowly pull marijuana out of your vocabulary, that's what we really try to do as far as education.
Perfect. Do you have anything to add to that, Vice President Green?
It's tough, right? So it's one of those things, as Bridget says, right? Marijuana, as the word has been weaponized to disenfranchise us, right? So everybody's Black on this screen that I can see, right? So I want to be purposeful about my language. So I definitely am in line with making sure that I use cannabis more than I'll say marijuana as well. Because education has allowed me to understand that, calling it marijuana is really simplified what it is. And cannabis is it, right? And, seeing, watching the comments and things that's coming in, what I think with that as well was, I think a lot of people tried cannabis and kind of made some decisions around it and say, hey, this is really not as bad as it was meant out to be. So thinking about language is important, right? So they use language over in so many different things to, push us in certain ways and to create certain perceptions. So as much as we have to, want to say, hey, man, we want to be able to say what we want to say, I think if we want to continue to really go ahead and take cannabis and start to give cannabis the respect it needs, I think we have to start to respect the language around cannabis, which will allow us to understand how important it is and really how diverse it is and how complex it is. And I think that's when we really start to see the general public really start to move forward, even if they never really dive down in cannabis ever or even get any education about cannabis or work in it or touch it or use it, just start to respect it. There's a lot of things that people respect that they know nothing about. And I think that's what we need to get to. And language is a big part of that. So I would advise anyone that's truthfully at a point of trying to enlighten themselves around what cannabis is, you should use the correct language and transitioning, two things. Using the word cannabis outside of marijuana, but also when we talk about the black market, stop saying black market and start to say legacy market. Black market is demonized in the sense of us, again, if we're purposeful about our language, and these are the legacy folks that have built the ground floor in the marketplace and why cannabis in itself is so profitable for a lot of individuals that don't look like us.
Thank you. Dr. Williams, tell us about Green Harvest Health, and does it overlap with the Ohio schools? Tell us a little bit more about the Green Harvest Health.
So when it did become when the medical cannabis program developed in Ohio, I knew that I wanted to be a part of it. I became certified, which physicians have to do to be able to recommend cannabis as a physician, which is kind of a short course that they put physicians through. And I thought my next step would really be to just, join and get a job with a office to be able to provide information and to help patients. However, in doing so, as soon as I got into the conversations with these companies, they, when I started talking about education and treatment plans and helping patients, they said, look, we are cards for cash. We're 10-minute visits. We're in and out, and everything you're talking about, we don't care about. And so I knew at that point that was not the job for me. And after spending so much time at the Cleveland Clinic and seeing patients really desperately wanting something different from their healthcare, I decided that this was really the opportunity for me to do something different. So I became certified as a cannabis educator and coach, as well as a life coach, and opened my own offices, which are Green Harvest Health. So before COVID, we were going towards 4 offices, but then with telemedicine, we've narrowed ourselves down to 1 office in Columbus and 1 office in Cleveland, with plans to start expanding ourselves out to other states. The overlap really comes with me owning Green Harvest Health and really being the card provider and being part of the education team with the Cleveland School of Cannabis, and giving students an opportunity as well. Many students have worked in our offices as we continue to grow and as they become a part of the industry.
What, Vice President Green, how does that support from Dr. Williams, who is a medical doctor, how has that helped to support and you guys have joined forces, right? So how has that helped to promote the education? Because I always speak about validity, right? And in terms of things that you do, how does that help with promoting the Cleveland School?
I'm glad you said that. There was another question that's comment said someone, how did parents take cannabis school coming in, right? So I think that's a perfect, a segue, right? I'm sure it was 50-50, at the end of the day, because of the validation of understanding, what this whole cannabis thing is about, and can my child really have a successful career and future in this? Partnering, working relationship that we have with Dr. Bridget with Green Harvest Health is one of the major things that we've consciously done to create different points of validation, right? We're developing curriculum, right? So one, we need individuals that know what they're talking about, but also we need individuals that are respected in the medical field. And Dr. Bridget and a few others that work on our staff is a major part of that. I remember the day that I met her, watching her on a panel in Columbus, and I sat there and said, this is a Black female doctor, and there's no way that she's not going to be working with us. And we're going to make sure it's a solid partnership. You know, the level of trust that we have is just unmatched, just the fact of her standard, but also really truthfully, her empathy with individuals and patients to be able to guide them through this process. At the end of the day, we hope that we can all trust our medical professionals, and Bridget is a medical professional that we can trust. Regardless of the context or your situation that you're going through. So for us, it's just it's a priceless resource that Dr. Bridget brings to the organization. And again, so many other ways that we partner and do things together. So it's so much more, you know, that we can even encompass a lot of times in even, you know, in one interview.
All right. So let's go. So when you go back, right, you know, it's funny. I have a couple. I've been in education for a very long time. Before I recently retired, right?
Hey, Roger, could I just jump in for a
Sure,
second?
go ahead.
I think, you know, it's great. We need to concentrate more on the educational component of cannabis, because I think when you look at society and what goes on is a lot of people are caught up, although they have the recreational use of it, it has become so prevalent, the recreational use, that it you know, people smoke marijuana for many different reasons, but they tend to concentrate more on the recreational use. And saying that is that, you know, just being in society and being in the community where, you know, you're working, you're at work, you're on a train, you smell like cannabis, you smell, I mean, it's just, you know, people just concentrate on that the negative components of cannabis instead of the, you know, the medicinal purposes and other reasons why people use it, because it seems that the recreational seems to be more prevalent, and there's less education about all the other things that cannabis can do and help you with. Because, you know, I don't like, personally, I don't like, you know, if I'm wearing a 3-piece suit and going into court and I'm riding this train or I'm outside and people are just smoking marijuana. I don't like smelling like it, you know. And there's a lot of people, especially, you know, older generations, they just don't like to deal with that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. I don't want to smell it underneath my window. I don't want to smell it. I don't want to get a buzz smelling it. You know, I'm happy that there's recreational, you know, people decide to do what they want to do. But when it starts interfering with my space, that's where I'm not so happy. So
Do you feel the same thing about cigars and
Absolutely.
tobacco and all of it?
100%. 100%. When it's underneath my window, or, you know, I can't breathe and I have to take a pump, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I feel the same way about cigarettes, which is a problem for me. Same way about cigars. So it's no different. I just don't like that. That, hey, if it's, you know, I don't mind someone doing it in their home, but when it starts taking over your whole place because they decide, hey, I'm gonna start smoking it or whatever, and no care in the world if you have a baby, if you have anything, you know, if you have allergies or whatever, then it becomes, you know, it's not so cool.
Yeah. Well, I think it's always about respecting each other's space, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so we've, you know, depending on your state, you know, laws have changed where it comes to burning anything, correct? And so how we feel about it, we might not want to be dressed and walk through a cloud of smoke or what have you. I think part of the difference is that you might not like it when it's cigar, or you might not like it when it's tobacco. But when it's cannabis, it carries a stigma along that it stinks more, right? Because it stinks of the smell, but it also stinks of the stigma. And so that carries an emotional aspect to it that you might not even feel necessarily when it's tobacco or when it's a cigar, because you might not like it, and it might even be more harsh to, you know, your lungs, or even leave more of a presence sometimes on your clothing. But the stigma is something that we have to work at, right? Because no one wants to walk through a cloud of smoke when you're not a smoker, right? But we need to change how we feel about cannabis. And there's so many other ways to take it in that inhaling it alone is just one aspect that you tend to see because it's what's been done the longest, along with making teas and what have you. But how we look at the stigma itself is something that we need to be able to attack and look at differently.
Well,
So-
I think it has a lot to do, like you said, respect. And a lot of people who are actually smoking marijuana have no respect for people, others. You know, I understand you're in the moment and things like that. Similar to people who smoke cigarette and cigar. There's a lack of respect for anyone else but their temporary or their time that they're in their minds, they're in their zone or whatever. But think about a mother walking for child who don't want to inhale that. Think about a pregnant woman who's walking in the street who don't want to inhale that, and no regards decide, hey, do it in your house. You know, smoke as much as you want. So I don't have to inhale that. So I have a problem with that. And I don't want my hair smelling like, you know, marijuana as I walk out the door. So that is disrespectful to me. So it's
So
not
I,
personal, but it is personal.
so I have a question. I think Dr. Bryant brought up a very valid point, right? Because when you go into a public setting, you go into a town hall, you're going to get those responses from people who, and I never thought about it before, right? I never thought about it as you just said it, Dr. Williams, right? You haven't it's not innate, right? It's habitual, right? It's something that is a habit now. It's now habit forming that I don't like marijuana. So if I don't like it, I don't want to have anything to do with it, right? But it's not, you were not born that way, right? Because if not, then you develop a like or dislike or what's the other word, or ambivalence for, right?
Absolutely.
Both of you have seen the positive effect of cannabis. I recently was diagnosed with the big C. I still won't smoke, right? Nobody will get me to the point of smoke because I never have. I've tried the edibles, right? I've tried the edibles. I think I've had some of that rum punch that they make. Kevin, you will talk about putting a little rum bottle with the seeds in the middle. You know what I'm talking about, with the leaves in the middle? You know what I'm talking about, Vice President Green? You know,
Only
Jamaicans,
you.
they have that.
Only you.
No,
Only
not only me. Trust me. He might know. They might have a bottle in his house, right? See, he's laughing. So he knows exactly what I'm talking about. So we use it and we make tea as well. So going to Peace Payne's question, what about people making it into tea instead of smoking it? And this actually goes to also for Dr. Bryant, right? Because she's definitely really feels that people abuse the ability to use. And that's one of her major concerns, right? The lack of care, right? I don't like it, but I don't care if you don't like it. It's free and I can use it, right? So that's, I think what about other ways of using it besides smoking it outright that are equally, if not more effective? And I want to take that question.
The fact of the matter is, and don't get me wrong, I'm not defending smokers. I think smoking in itself, it's kind of an obnoxious habit because it does lean over into other people's spaces, right? And so, but that's true. And my whole point is that's true whether it's tobacco or, God forbid, cigars are stinky, but, people kind of think that they're elevated and sophisticated while they're using it, right? And so it's just that smoking in itself is one way to use it, but there's so many other ways to utilize this. And to be quite honest, that can be a lot healthier and more effective. And so as we get more states with more medical programs, you're going to have people that have better access. That's the benefit of having these programs, because now you can use tinctures that you can put underneath your tongue. It activates in about 15 minutes and lasts about 4 to 5 hours, right? You can have edibles that might take an hour or two to kick in, but are wonderful for sleep because they're going to last for 6 to 8 hours, right? There are drinks that we're a drinking drunk country. No one seems to have a problem with it. And there are going to be a lot of cannabis drinks on the market, and they will be sitting right next to the wine coolers and everything else. And people are going to accept this greatly. You know, smoking is something that is readily that people have done for such a long time, but it is not, as you will find over time, less and less people will do it, because vaping and smoking are now villainized in our communities, right? Like used to have tons of tobacco smokers. You know, it was commonplace. You could smoke in the hospital. But we've pulled back from that because we know of the carcinogens and how it can cause cancer. So you will find over time that that's inhaling itself, though maybe a favorite form for some, most people are going to start leaning in other directions because they simply don't want to inhale. In an ideal world, I would like you all to only breathe fresh, clean air. But when you find it, you let me know where that is, right? That's just not something that is an option. But there's so many other ways to consume this that are so much more beneficial. And you'll see more of that over as programs develop and grow.
I want to switch the dialogue for a minute and talk about the economic component of cannabis. All right. The cannabis industry is a $2 billion industry, if not more. You might have both of you might have a better number than I do. I don't, but I know it's a very, very financially lucrative. That's the word I'm looking for. Lucrative industry, if done. And one of the things I always advocated for was for the legalization of the use of marijuana. I went to Amsterdam a number of years ago, and about 10 or 12 years ago, I went to Amsterdam, and they had the little restaurants. Right, so there's a little restaurant area in downtown Amsterdam where you can go and purchase, look at the menu and order. I want to talk about that. With the authors, they didn't really discuss, except for one author that I saw, that discussed that she sold out all of her businesses in her home state of Texas and moved to Ohio and started this practice, and it took her a while to get started. As a matter of fact, she ended up getting divorced from her husband, right? So both of you can address that, both from the education perspective, moving people into the cannabis industry, and you also as a business person and other people are doing business. Tell us about, I'm like I started with, I'm an advocate because I'm in the community. I see these people smoking. I see them juggling, as we call it. I don't know if that's the expression they use anymore, but they're juggling. I'm like, you're doing something where it can become far more profitable for you if you do it at this level. What is both of your experience, both from the moving people into the station, Vice President Green, and owning your own business and helping people to establish and people coming to you who have started? So I don't know let's start with Vice President Green. Let's tackle that, moving in the financial component, and then the next question after that is going to lead to how do you get started? Right.
So I think the first thing is people, right? People use a lot of things. They overuse things and they don't use things consciously because, one, they're morally not educated by it. And a lot of individuals are dealing with trauma, and they're dealing with how they deal. So people that might be over smoking, right, they're probably overdoing other things as well, right? Lack of respect there. And I think that's what it comes down to, the economic side. So the first thing is, the cannabis industry is $24 billion industry right now. By 2028,
multiply my number by 10. Yeah, I got you. Multiply by 10.
Yeah, they're looking at 200 billion in 2028, right? So 6 years from now, we're looking at a $200 billion industry. So getting people in the cannabis industry for me, first wise from a workforce development side, is saying that this industry has more upward mobility than pretty much any other industry that's going on right now. And that's calculated by the barriers of entry, how to get into the industry, and the fact of its growth, right? The growth right now is infinite because we don't have a market cap of what this is going to be, right? We're not even 50 states medical yet, and it's a $24 billion industry, in itself. We haven't even revolutionized and evolved fully in the industry yet. We're still in the infancy. So I compare it to basically when they were building computers in the garages in the 80s and talking about everyone was going to have these personal computers going to change the world. They were, thinking about what the internet could be, all that type of stuff. That's really where we are, because we still know the person that knows the most about cannabis in the world still doesn't know everything about cannabis, right? Because we're still in that point. So from an entrepreneurship side, so that's the workforce development. This industry has an opportunity you can get in right now. In a year, 2 years, you could be way further ahead and growing if you're hard work and continue to educate yourself and continue to put effort into your career and put effort into the work that you're doing. You have a lot of opportunity because there's nothing but growth. So if you're in now, you're going to grow if you're a person that's willing to put in the work. On the ownership side and entrepreneurship, that's all about the evolution. The best thing you could ever do in entrepreneurship is find gaps. Look at something and be like, oh, they're not doing this well. Let me solve that problem and put that in there, right? With that situation. And there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of gaps in cannabis. Not even just problems. There's a lot of opportunity. And we're just getting started. The opportunities that we think are there now are only there because the limited mindset that we have around cannabis and the limitations that we have about actualizing the businesses. People can't even go to a bank and get a loan if you're in a cannabis business, right? So if you think about just access to capital, a lot of people can't do things that they might have ideas for. So there's so much opportunity. And what I tell people all the time is, don't forget what you know right now. I'm only in the cannabis industry. No, let me say, I'm only having success in the cannabis industry because of what I do outside the cannabis industry, what I've been doing in the companies and the things that I've built. I've done a lot of work with municipalities, government agencies. I've done a lot of work with small businesses, large nonprofits. I've done a lot of community work, big corporations, small corporations. So I've had a lot of experience in the corporate space. I've worked with schools before. I've built out charter schools, and I've worked with higher education. So I've seen all this in a different landscape. So all the things that I know in my outside cannabis world is everything that I do still in cannabis. The content has changed. So I still do the day-to-day things that I would be doing if the content was something different. So for me, I've really, really been able to translate my skill set and utilize, and I have a lot of insight of how to build economic development things because of the work that I've done. Like just earlier today, I'm working on an economic development plan with a county in Pennsylvania. So I'm always looking at how does this thing continue to develop itself? Where are the opportunities, for people? So I really tell individuals it's worth a look. It's worth a real look. It's not pushing anybody into something that they don't want to do, but it's really saying, hey, look at the opportunities, investigate it, give it a real critical eye. And you might find some intriguing things that might speak to you.
You know what? Let me just jump in. I think, that's an important point. And I think there needs to be more concentration on marketing this. The strategic impact that cannabis can have economically, not only medically, but economically, and the things that can be done with the revenue that it can be, because this is reoccurring revenue. And we can use this revenue to decrease the educational deficiencies in minority communities, the disparity when it comes to healthcare. If we're able to collaborate those ideas together, we can just bring we can eliminate that negative stigma that exists at certain points. So I think what we're doing tonight is extremely important. The cannabis school, just the educational component, so we can become more wise when we are out there articulating the cost benefit analysis of the utilization of cannabis.
100%.
Dr. Williams.
So, I agree with what Kevin shared, and I would say that the one thing that I've learned, and one of the reasons I really love the Cleveland School of Cannabis, is because it's giving opportunities really to young people. And keep in mind, I've had students from 18 to close to 80 Okay. But it's given opportunity to many times young people that did not do well in high school, that did not believe that they were good students, and many of them didn't believe that they were smart. And they took a leap on something that comforted them personally at some point in their lives, and decided, well, wait, I'll just jump into this industry. And when they went to the school, they started thriving. They were A students. They were head of the class. They were excited about the material. And they're not there and they're not getting high. They're getting educated. They're learning science. Some of these classes, look, I can't grow a tomato plant well. Okay. And sitting in on some of the more horticultural classes, I was blown away. I mean, they're learning real information, real science, real skills that they can still apply to other areas, whether they stay in the cannabis space or not. But these were kids that thought so little of themselves sometimes, and then realized that they're really intelligent and smart and innovative and have the ability to do anything. That is some of the benefits of the school itself. So when people say they want to be in the cannabis industry, the one thing I highly recommend is look at what you already love, sprinkle a little cannabis on top, and then do that, because this is a huge industry. Anything that is needed in every other industry in the world is needed in cannabis. We need not just we don't need just people handing out medications.
Mhm.
We need marketers, right? We need CPAs. We need representatives that are going out and selling. We need people working in every aspect of the industry. And so if you can take what you love and then add the cannabis to it, there's definitely a place for you. And then if you feel that you are not someone that would do well in a new education or science-based place, think again, because this might be the one place where you can thrive.
So I know. So this question is for Shelby, right? Remember I told you I had to call him to let him know that you're on. Okay. So let's go to. Can you tell us some of the names of those cannabis companies that you have worked with? I believe that's what the question is. What you have worked with first. Before I get to my question, that Shelby's question is. Let's answer that question from Andre.
Yeah, ton. We work with most of the top ones. So you're thinking about, Cureleaf, which is I think top 2 or top number 1. Some local ones, Buckeye Relief, as well as I'm trying to think, Cresco Labs, Acreage Holdings, which holds a bunch of different cannabis companies. Green Harvest Health in itself, Certified Cultivators, Blue Planet. I'm just thinking Fireline Scientific, Clutch Cannabis. There's just a litany of individuals, organizations that we worked with, and the reason why we've had the opportunity to work is because we we produce great content, but also we know how to meet people where they are, and being able to take them as an educator yourself. It's not about slides, it's not about the book. It's about being able to translate it to an individual and then empower them to believe in themselves so they give effort, right? And that's what education truthfully is about. So we make sure that our content is solid, and more than solid. We are one of 2 state-approved schools in the entire country that hold that status.
By the way, what you're saying that, can you tell us, while you're talking about the state group school, tell us the age group that's involved in that school?
As Bridget said, 18 to 70. It is the hardest demo. I'm a marketer, so the first thing you learn in marketing, you can't market to everybody. And then I tell people, what's your demographic? 18 to 70, and it's nuts and it sounds crazy. So I will definitely say that our school, our demographic at the school is continue to gear younger, and that's through the fact that in the beginning there was a lot of individuals that wanted to end this race with the race that they started a long time ago. Right. So we had a lot of individuals like, this is my opportunity to finally do what I wanted to do. and we were their level for them. And now what's happening is that individuals saying this is the opportunity for me, allow me to be who I want to be when they're starting early times in their life and making decisions when that wasn't an option for them before. So that's what we're seeing, that it's gearing younger in itself. But we really have a very diverse. We've had everything from not only medical professionals in the classes. I'm talking about active school principals that are still actually showing up and blowing the whistle, that are coming into Cleveland School of Cannabis, and the litany and all across the board. So it's a pretty wide demographic in the sense of the individuals that are coming into the school. And then, truthfully, with that situation, what we're really focused around is making sure we're quality. So, we're just launching our extraction lab. So we're the only career school in the entire country that's going to have, hands-on. You're growing cannabis on site now at our building. Not only again, and just continue to get the top educators in the space to continue to enhance our curriculum. And that's the reason why we work with so many of the top cannabis companies, big, small, new, old as it can be in the industry that's this small, because our students come out and they're great and they do great things. And I've watched it. I've watched a young person literally come into the school. So I remember one of our first students, young black male, came into a school, got our minority scholarship, so he was able to afford the school. His family didn't believe it. He took a chance, spent all the rest of the money that he had, graduated, came out, got hired, and was basically the first time he left home and moved out of his house because the job paid for him to relocate. This is what allowed this person. I've watched it over and over. I've seen people leave the state for the first time. Getting opportunities in new states because all these companies are growing. They're like, hey, you're great. You're good. And here, we want to open here. Here's an opportunity. I've watched it happen over and over and over and over again. So, that's what the best part of this entire thing. And that's why we'll continue to focus around high standards.
So this is Shelby's question, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's scared, but excited, right? He wants to start his own cannabis business.
Mm-hmm.
Walk us through what are some of the first steps outside of knowing, well, that's part of it too, right? So the first step is knowing which component of the business you want to do, right? But beyond that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that component, walk us through starting that business.
So it's tough, obviously, if we don't know what the business is, right? Yeah. So that's the first thing. What I will say is some of the foundational pillars, some pillars that you should have in any business development is one, first, obviously your analysis of the marketplace and what do you do well and what are your capabilities? Dr. Bridges specifically said, what do you love? Where's your passion? And you better have some passion about it because you ain't getting up and grinding about no business when you got some passion. So let's just be honest. Business is not for everybody. That's why most people are not business owners. So, you don't have to be a business owner to be successful. That's the first thing. After you've done that, really the next step is education and networking. You must build a strong network because you must be able to figure out the team and the players and the resources you're going to need to acquire and have in your tool belt so you can actualize your goals, right? After that is really setting a strong goal plan. Now in cannabis, it depends on where you're going. Are you trying to go into the highly regulated license market by acquiring a license to cultivate, dispense, or process or manufacture cannabis? At that point, you're going to really have to have your game plan around how do I build a team? How do I raise capital? And then how do I continue to build a team to really move it forward? Because in cannabis, you really got to continue to evolve your team because there are going to be different nuances at every step. You're going to have your pre-license, which is building out your application. Your next is going to be your capital raising fee. What is the money you're going to need to get to the first step of that? Then you're going to need to expand the team because now you're thinking about operational people. You're thinking about hard technical talent. And then you're also thinking about more capital raising because you're most likely going to need money to take to your next phase within that situation. So as you're really going through these pillars and trying to understand what you're trying to do, your setup in the beginning is very, very important. The education, understanding the nuances of where you're trying to go. If you're going on the end where it's not so regulated, but there's still going to be some licensing and thing that you probably have to go through, you want to making sure, again, do you understand your state laws and what's going on there? How or in what business are you into? Product where people are consuming? Are you into product where it's beauty and health on the outside of the skin? Are you into consulting and all those different types of things? You're going to need to really understand the business model that you're trying to set up. What are the local laws, the rules, and then in itself, what are going to be the barriers? I think once you've really identified that, again, it really comes back to how do you continue to network? How do you continue to build your team and your resources? But it really depends on which side you're going on. And I'll cut it into two. I think there's many different avenues, but if you cut it into two, say you're going to go to the cannabis license side, you're going to need to making sure that you have to build a strong team and understand that you're going to have to raise capital to be able to do that. This is a capital intensive type business, and most individuals are not going to have the capital to be able to run right away with this situation. So they're going to need some other capital. In most cases of businesses like this, you don't use all your own money anyway. You bring in investors to be able to do that. If you're going on the other side, you might need investors, but it's definitely going to be depending on how this business is run. Can you run it yourself because of the talent and the skill set you have directly? Or do you need to bring in other capital and other people and other partners per se that have the skill set that you're looking for? But once you've identified that, then you can really start laying your roadmap around how you actualize your business. And as an entrepreneur, period, you have to be willing to fail forward. There are no failures. There's only lessons. And you have to be able to hold yourself highly accountable to what you're not good at and where you're making pitfalls so you can really make good decisions. So it's hard to say exactly, what it is, what's the liquid that you need for capital, depending on what you're trying to do. But you're trying to get into the license side, you're most likely going to have to be in the $1 million range to really do it at the end of the day. Now, there's definitely certain states that have legalization from a license standpoint where they have micro licenses. But, you said hurt 500K, it all depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do it on a major scale, it's going to cost money to do that. But they're micro licenses. Michigan's a great example. You can grow 150 plants as a micro license. The license acquisition is about $3,000. So for $3,000, you can go and get that license. Now there's going to be other capital, right? Where you're growing it, where you're dispensing it, all those types of things, right? What are going to be your cost of goods sold? All that type of stuff to really build your thing. So to say there's a blanket number, there is no blanket number. What you're looking for is to build out your budget per your goals and what you're trying to do, and also where you're located. So you're located in New York, right? Those licenses are going to be expensive, right? Now they can differ depending on if you're maybe upstate someplace compared to the city, which is if you just look at the economics of New York State right now, that's pretty clear. The differences within, what it takes to start a business, down in the city and the boroughs compared to what it is might be, all the way upstate New York, in Ithaca. Right. In that instance. So it's really laying that self out for you, doing your homework and really having a solid plan within that situation.
All right. I love the education you're giving our audience. Very, very important. And thank you for sharing that with everyone, because it's not just as easy as, hey, you know what? I decide I want to do this and I'm just going to jump into it. But the most important part you focused on was education. Educate yourself before you jump into it. Educate yourself, and educate yourself. Now, Dr. Williams, I want to go to the part of your book. Tell me, I know that it's about 18 different individuals that you studied, and how does that affect traditional medicine? Can you elaborate a little bit more on what you found, your findings, and the comparison between traditional medicine?
So I would say the one thing, first of all, cannabis is medicine.
By the way, look, there's my copy.
Hold it up. All right now.
And look, I took notes. Can you see it? Can you see my notes?
We can see it.
And I took notes as I read. All right, so I'm just trying to tell you, because I started learning. But go ahead.
Very good.
Just had to tell you that.
Very good. And keep in mind that Courage in Cannabis is a series. So we're actually looking for new authors and new stories in the next couple months here to, there's so many stories that we weren't able to get into the book. And so, if that's something that's interesting to you, or if you have a story to share, definitely reach out. And so the book is really, I'm sorry.
And I said, if you hear that, Shelby, I'm talking to Shelby.
So it's definitely it's an opportunity for healing and to sharing and educating. And so the book really gives an opportunity for people to, like you said, learn, and the stories are incredibly inspirational. They're doctors and lawyers and educators, activists, entrepreneurs, patients, people who have dealt with addiction, people that had to confront their faith and how they felt about cannabis, and come over major milestones to be able to, and cannabis was a part of their story. The one thing, as far as where does it tie in with traditional medicine, cannabis is medicine. The can and people tried to make this big separation. The one thing that, and I think it might help as far as how people view cannabis, that I've been seeing patients after the last 4 years here, and they've never been high one day. That they've used it every single day. There's ways of combining the cannabinoids, the active aspects of the plant, so that they never have a feeling of being out of control or have a euphoric feeling. They get all the benefits, but without that euphoric feeling. So when people look at what cannabis is and how it's medication, to assume that everyone's walking around high is not really a clear story. That a lot of people use it so that they're never high. Other people use it in a microdosing way so that they're always below that level that would make them feel that way. And to be honest, if people are concerned about being high, then if you're looking at many of the medications that we provide on a regular basis, whether they're opioids or benzodiazepines, they create a high feeling as well. But we don't seem to focus on it so much. And so there's a way of utilizing this that can be really healthy. So I just kind of want to throw that out there as well. So, but the book really shows how people sometimes have combined some traditional pharmaceuticals, in other ways that they worked really hard to get away from opioid addiction, and that cannabis was the tool that allowed them to get back into their life and to be able to work again, where the opioids simply had them in bed and not being able to participate at all. So there are incredible opportunities that cannabis can offer. And as Kevin has said, so we're really just at the beginning of this as far as understanding what it can do and what the different aspects of the plant can offer.
So you mentioned something about faith. Some of your, can you elaborate on that? Some people who actually want to try cannabis, even for the hemp or the lotion or something, or CBD. What did you find and what did you come across in regards to that and faith?
So whether some, like I said, some of this is covered in the book and many just in my patient populations, period. That for many of my patients, they struggle with culture. I actually have a number of Jamaican patients that the idea of actually using cannabis goes against everything that they believe culturally, because as you know that there's an aspect of Jamaican culture where this is supported, but there's a great aspect of Jamaican culture where this is demonized. And so working with patients dealing with their culture as well as dealing with faith and believing that somehow using cannabis is somehow against their religion, against their relationship with God. And that is something that has been taught. It is not something that you will see in the Bible. It's not something that is supported in any other way, but as a way to just control us into believing this is part of that reefer madness, to believing that somehow this is a negative. And so keep in mind, the same churches that have you drink wine at every service are also sometimes the same churches that are telling you that this medicinal plant that can help control your blood sugars, help with your anxiety, help with your pain and inflammation is somehow wrong. So we have to sometimes look at where the message is coming from and why we have that message in the first place. And so it's a conversation that I often have to have with my patients. And it's also something that's covered in the book as well. There's a woman in the book whose son had a large, horrible brain tumor. And she belongs to a very, very small religious community who initially, the The doctors wanted to put her son on numerous medications, and she just felt that it wasn't right. She heard about the potential of what cannabis could offer, and she started to use it for her son. The church that she's greatly involved in initially definitely had issues with this. But as they saw the brain tumor shrinking after every visit, after all the MRIs, and keep in mind, this is an extremely small community, so they're very involved in this child's care, that they couldn't deny the fact that cannabis was helpful for this child. And then after that, other members of the community started to utilize cannabis and CBD to help with their own conditions. But this is something that she had to make a choice that the right medicine for her son was more important than the judgment of this church. But the church came around and weren't stuck on these societal political ideas about what cannabis was and what it meant, but they were willing to see what it actually was doing for this family, and they stuck behind her.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you.
This has been very, very, very informative. I want to finish up with a letter I got yesterday, right? And it goes back to your marijuana story when you told all the way at the beginning about the scare between the negative word marijuana, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also what we've talked about would be in education. The police department has cut out testing for marijuana, but they spelled marijuana marihuana, right? Marijuana, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was just interesting as you were talking about it, like they don't even know the right spelling of the word.
So that is a different way of spelling it that it's used a little bit more in Canada. It's really one of the more traditional ways of spelling it. It's when it was spelled with a J that it was Maria and Juan.
Okay. So right, but I'm just saying for the average person, that's how it's spelled. So it's like for all of us, it doesn't look like the right way of spelling it or anything else along the line. But it's now a New York State law that says that you cannot be negatively impacted. And I'm telling that to everybody out there. So you cannot be negatively impacted by the use of marijuana, by the use of cannabis to go through and take your police officer exam. So even the state, New York State, however, to get a license in New York State is extremely difficult and extremely hard to come by. So I'm just telling you right now that the word is getting around. I want a piece of that $24 billion, Kev. So we have to work on that, the $24 billion. And, the medical component is vital and is important. And I think we're never going to immediately get rid of the stereotypes of the effect of cannabis. What people believe is going to take a while to change, right? And whatever causes that change, we don't know.
Education.
Right?
Yes.
No,
Education.
I 100% am saying whatever will cause a change. Education is one. Maybe to see the business side of it and see, hey, my kids are bringing in, they're able to provide for their household and mine by doing.
Wait. There was an important part that Kevin brought up. And the part he mentioned is even though it might be legal in certain states, but federally, you have to be careful with that too. Not only do you educate yourself, but you have to find out what the laws are for your city, your state, and federal. You don't want to get caught out there. You want to make sure that everything you're doing is correct, because a lot of people end up going to prison for this. And now, because they're making money, the laws are starting to change, but people are sitting in prison because of this.
The only correction I have for you, Dr. Brian, is that they're always making money. Now they see that they can get a piece of the pie. That's what.
Yeah, but the people who are in prison are still in prison.
Yeah.
So as minority individuals, we want to make sure that we educate ourselves. We're safe. We know our laws. We know, and you do your research. You do your research, and you connect with people who can teach you, like Kevin, his school. Like Dr. Williams, who can teach you. You can read the book and find out more about it. And for those who want to find out more about the industry, the cannabis industry, go to school, learn about it. Not only do it based on what your mama, your papa, or whatever, So yes, thank you for educating us about the stigma, that comes with the smell. But it is offensive. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna change
Let
over
it go.
that.
Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. That's the
I'm
only
not-
way. Listen, if people pee on the sidewalk and in the elevator too. I mean, I hate to tell you that, but I
and
stepped
that's
out.
offensive too.
I
That
stepped
is
out in my
offensive.
lawn. I stepped out in my lawn, and there's poop in my lawn. Right. So, yeah, let it go. That's the point, right?
So thank you for coming and showing us a different side. Thank you for bringing the business aspect. Thank you for bringing the medical aspect. And I completely agree with you. In the field of traditional medicine, we keep drugging people up, giving them more medicine and more medicine. So if we can educate ourselves on different ways, and especially coming from the Caribbean island, we like to take herbs, we like to drink tea, we like to do things. So if we can find a natural way of doing something and it don't harm us, so be it.
Yes.
But educate yourself. So please tell our listeners where they can find out more about you, where they can reach you, to find out about your school, to find out how they can reach you at your business, maybe come and visit. So please share with us. I know you're all the way in Ohio, our Ohio crew, but you know what? You can come on this side, back on this side of town too. Go ahead.
No, definitely. Yeah, so we've done some programs actually in New York. We've worked with Senator James Sanders from Jamaica, Queens, actually, his district, this past year. And we're partnered with the New American Chamber out of New York and providing cannabis education there. And, we have a full online program, as well as the work that Green Harvest does, nationally within that. So, really Cleveland School Cannabis, Google it, search on any social media. You'll definitely find us. And really just reach out, connect. Education starts from the second you seek it. So we're here to answer questions, provide guidance, so you can make the best decision. We always say we're your partner. We're in a relationship this together. We don't want to just look like as a school that you signed up for. This is really a part of making sure that we build strong relationships and do the right thing, by our students in this process. And just looking forward to connect with anybody that's really just looking for guidance and insight on, what could be some options, for my next step.
And where can they find you? What's your email address? What's the website? Come
Yeah,
on.
so the website is, csceducation.com. But as I said, most people go to Google. So I would just say, Google Cleveland School of Cannabis. You're going to find us. That's the easiest way to make sure on anything that you search us on. So any social media account that you search Cleveland School of Cannabis will pop up. CSC Education is the website. But again, just Google Cleveland School of Cannabis, get in contact with us. And we have a litany of programs in person, online, and a bunch of solutions. And again, obviously, just information to help you guide your decisions.
Thank you. And our Dr. Williams, go ahead, share your info, please.
Sure. So you can always find more about Green Harvest Health at greenharvest.health. It's not a .com, but a .health. And I do actually a number of educational videos on social media at Dr. Bridget MD. So whether that's TikTok or Instagram or, what have you. But then also finding me on drbridgetmd.com. I'm sorry.
Spell Bridget for us.
Oh, BRIDGET. So Dr. Dr. Bridget MD, whether that's .com for the website, or you can find that on TikTok and Instagram. And
wait, wait, let me see if I could follow you. I'm gonna try following you now. Hold on.
okay.
All right. So Dr. I gotta
Bridget MD.
Let me try this. Dr. Bridget MD.
Let me go on TikTok.
Dr. I'm doing Instagram. Dr. Bridget.
I'll do TikTok.
Okay. So look, you got 2 followers right away.
Yes, the young people will do TikTok.
Yeah, Doctor. I'm not calling me young. All right, I'll appreciate that. I press follow, so you're gonna get a follow right now from.
Okay.
I don't even know what it comes on. There might be the Village Talk Show or my name. So you're gonna see it right now. All right, you see it already? Oh, look, our producer said it's right there.
Okay.
What's your IG, Kevin? Let me do that one time too while I'm here.
Yeah, my personally is New Leaders.
New.
So yeah, just like how it's spelled.
Yep,
with the plural at the.
I got it with the S. New Leaders. Which one? What's KG?
Yes.
All right, that's you. Follow. There you go. Hey, how you beating Dr. Bridget on the followers, man?
Hey, I'm in marketing. It's my job.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I want
You know what?
if we're not liking Kevin right now, it's the Jamaican in him. He couldn't help himself. So I just want to say, come out, get your book, Courage in Cannabis. First story is really cool. You know, if you can always get your autographed copy, have them sent one to you. You got an endorsement there from SJ about the book. It's an awesome read. The story of Kevin, my new Jamaican buddy, although him say my town mouse, I'm a country mouse, right? And that's the book right here. That's the look at Kevin in that book. So come out, read it, learn what it is. And here's the story of Dr. Bridget. Let me see. I'm trying to find your picture there, Dr. Bridget. So, and I was taking so
And let me say the one thing that's about the book, if you enjoy the story, if it's meaningful for you, every author has their bio and a way to contact them. So it's a way to really take that education and that information and take it to the next level. And you can learn more about the book at courageincannabis.com.
All right. It's a great read. It shows how people perspective, that perspective have changed, right? Whether you were avid smoker, avid user of cannabis, and then transform to to now becoming a producer and an entrepreneur with it, or you just happen to say, hey, let me try something new. You know, I didn't realize you guys took up the whole show. I did not even realize that. I guess the conversation was very fluid, and we appreciate that. So I want to thank everyone, both of you, for joining us today. And, you know, so looking forward to hearing more from you and hearing more about what is happening. So God bless. Have a great night.
Thank you for joining us.
Right. And thank you for the opportunity to meet with you.
Yes.
I didn't hear you. You can speak.
We appreciate you, and I am following you, Dr. Bridget, both on Instagram.
I'm following both of you.
So I have to get his information after.
He just told you new leaders.
Okay.
Underneath it would say KG, so you know it's him. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for listening, watching, sharing the Village Radio Talk Show. Right here, 92.1 FM on YouTube at the Village Radio Talk Show, on Facebook at Roderick F. Daly, Dr. Joanne Bryan, John L. Sampson, our executive producer, Andre Dolman, our producer, Sophie Willison. God bless each and every of you. Know that the show has been brought to you by the Single Parent University. Check them out and follow up if you have issues on anything with being a single parent, and also by the King of Jerk on Utica and Glenwood Road. Utica, right at the corner of Utica and Glenwood. Knowing that, and thank you to both our guests talking about in cannabis, courage in cannabis. What is your next step? Let's get that done. God bless each and every one of you. See you next week, Thursday.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.